And then we got the new album from the Hot Country Knights, The K is Silent.
Everybody do the moose knuckle shuffle.
Hot Country Knights, if you haven't followed along, is Dierks Bentley's little side project, and it is him as Doug Douglason and his band that is claiming to be a cover band from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but it's really a tribute project to 90s country. And he's performed live as the Hot Country Knights for a few years now, but this is a whole project, a whole album that's getting released through a major label, and it's doing a lot of things at once. It's kind of ribbing modern country music, it's kind of a tribute to 90s country music, and it's just kind of a ridiculous juvenile comedy project all at the same time. And while I can't really say how broad the appeal of this project is going to be, if you are in on the joke, if you like the sound of 90s country, if you miss Travis Tritt and Brooks and Dunn, it is hard for me to imagine you not loving this project. It is smarter than you think it's going to be, but still really dumb. It is silly musically, but really strong musically, with real moments of steel and fiddle and kind of thrumming, boppy, energetic guitar. They absolutely sonically nailed the era. And then they just had a ton of fun on these songs. You know, there's tons of innuendo on these songs, whether it's something like Asphalt, where he's just talking about how it's her ass's fault that he has to go on the road to go see her.
It's that asphalt.
Or You Make It Hard with Terry Clark, which is this ridiculous over-the-top duet. And obviously he's talking about
that certain part of the male body.
You make it hard.
Even at the end of that song, he says, "Every inch of me is so into you." And you gotta just die laughing when you hear that. Oh, and there's also the Moose Knuckle Shuffle about hiking your jeans up tight and doing the Moose Knuckle Shuffle. That's a whole line dance. But then other moments on this album are not so in-your-face punny. They're a little bit subtler. Like the song Mull It Over really works as a song about trying to figure out a relationship and this guy flirting with a girl and asking her to mull it over. But he's really singing about the hair on his shoulders, you know. It's about a freaking mullet as much as it's about this relationship, but you don't even have to pick up on that the first time to enjoy the song. I'd say the same thing about Kings of Neon and even Pick Her Up. You can just enjoy those songs as regular songs, not as big joke songs. Other times, though, it's pretty obvious it's a joke song. Then It Rained is this ridiculous ballad that's clearly poking some fun at The Thunder Rolls by Garth Brooks. It is just a song about nothing, and then it rained. The chorus has this big, dramatic build to nothing. There's no thunder and lightning and no drama. It just rains. And then the final track on the song is called The USA Begins With Us.
Now there's a little tag in there that says Made in China.
That really just feels like kind of an excuse to say China the way Trump does, or just to quote President Bush when he couldn't figure out the "fool me once, shame on you" quote. A lot of this album, you're just kind of like, damn, Dierks Bentley was bored and maybe feeling stale in his regular career and just wanted to do something different, and I love that. I love that. I mean, I think they nail what they're going for on this album, which is a sort of off-the-wall, wacky, comedic, lighthearted experiment. This is sort of like a way more accessible version of what Wheeler Walker Jr. does. It's not really going for shock value as much as it's going for sort of blush-worthy naughtiness and stuff that's just a little bit edgy, not totally edgy. I think it really works. I freaking loved this album. It's just a good time. Is it something I'm gonna revisit all the time? With the exception of a few songs, no. But it could be one of those great albums to sort of just throw a song on your playlist and see if anyone else in the car notices how dirty it is. I would do that with You Make It Hard and just see if they notice. Another good one to do that with is the song Parked Out by the Lake by Dean Summerwind.
And I'm parked out by the lake.
That's how you can tell if your friends are paying any attention to lyrics. If they don't stop and say, "What are we listening to?" then you'll know they don't really care that much about words. I don't think I was intentionally doing it, but I think the order of these albums so far is kind of how I would subdivide them. I think it would be like those first two are, I like it. These last two were, I love it, and maybe the final two I'm going to talk about are I want some more of it. These last two are probably my favorite albums in the video. Next I want to talk about Years by John Anderson.
I'm still hanging on.
This album is somehow both serious and nostalgic and wistful and retrospective, but also breezy and light and playful. It is really simple, it's really tight, it's just 10 songs, and it's excellent. For the uninitiated, John Anderson is someone you might know from 80s and 90s country songs like Straight Tequila Night and Seminole Wind. But in terms of mainstream conversation, he hasn't really had a moment in a long time, even if he's toured with people like Blake Shelton over the past decade. But there was a certain gravitas around the release of Years. He recorded it with Dan Auerbach at his studio Easy Eye Sound. And the most recent album that comes to mind that was recorded there that y'all might have heard is Yola's album. So if you liked Ride Out in the Country, if you liked that kind of 1970s sort of soulful, vintage, but really beautiful, lush country sound, then you're gonna definitely enjoy the sound of John Anderson's record Years. So it's been said that this is gonna be John Anderson's last record, and we'll see if that's true. Artists say that all the time and then make more music, but there's tons of songs on here that really do feel final in a way. And he's looking back on his life with a certain patience and a certain understanding. The title track, Years, is by far the most serious moment on this record. It has a certain solemnity to it.
Don't look back in sorrow.
And on the first verse, he finds himself alone. Look around, up and down. They're nowhere to be found. He has that same reflectiveness on the opening song on this album that's called I'm Still Hanging On, where he is literally kind of claiming his own resilience, saying that there's people that have written him off, but I'm still hanging on, which is a cool perspective to hear from an artist that's been in the industry for so long. Now, songs like this don't just feature fiddle and steel stuff that I really like, but also kind of a backing chorus. Occasionally on this album, you even get moments of organ, and that's what brings in that sort of soulful 60s, 70s feel that I was describing. Other times on here, he's a lot more humorous and lighthearted and playful. The song Celebrate has a kind of Hawaiian feel to it with just brushed drums and this nice bow wow going all through it. And this is one of many songs that features just an incredibly simple lyric. There's not a lot of words in a lot of these songs. They're almost proverbs from an aging country singer that's just looking back at life. It's kind of like Buddhist philosophy. He just says, as I look back through the years, I've seen my share of good and bad times. And he's not asking for much. He just says, I'm asking for one more day that I'll stop and celebrate. Like, you can tell the dreaming part of his mind has kind of sunsetted, but the sort of patient understanding that life can be really mundane is alive, and yet that's enough.
Sometimes a man just needs to be alone.
And you get the sense that John Anderson still has that little bit of youth at heart on songs like Wild and Free, where he describes himself as just sort of a free spirit, a rambling man that wants to tour around the country. Other times on here, you get kind of relationship songs like What's a Man Gotta Do, and then the song You're Nearly Nothing. This has got almost a doo-wop feel to it, and again feels like a little bit of a proverb. He says, you're nearly nothing when nobody loves you, but you're really something when somebody cares for you. That's how simple the chorus is. John Anderson's always had a pretty agile, simple voice. He's not some big bellowing tone, but just the stretching of the vocal cords that happens with age has added a little bit of gruffness into his kind of mellifluous tone, and it makes for a really cool sound that can be really like thin and playful and then really gruff and serious at the same time. All in all, I just think it's a beautiful album. I think it's a simple album. I think it's one that goes down really easy, kind of gets you thinking, and kind of is just like, huh, that's what John's up to. And the last album I want to talk about, and definitely one of my favorites, and definitely likely to be one of my favorites for the whole year, is called Lamentations by American Aquarium.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
If you're not familiar with American Aquarium, then you are not familiar with one of the best songwriters alive right now. His name is B.J. Barham, and he should be right there in your mind with like Jason Isbell and Laurie McKenna and Tyler Childers and people that really know how to craft a song. If I had to describe his songwriting style in one word, it would just be honest. But he takes honest to another level. Sometimes he is viscerally, painfully honest. If you know any of B.J. Barham's story, you know about him getting sober, and I'm drawn to a lot of artists, a lot of podcasters even, that have gone through AA. I think something about sitting in a meeting, laying bare your soul, your tendencies, your bad habits, the reality of who you are all the time, makes you able to communicate your dark side in a really poetic way. And B.J. Barham definitely has a dark side. He sings about it a lot. He has a lot of anger inside of him. Sometimes he does point the finger, but y'all know that saying, like, if you point the finger, there's three back pointing at you? I feel like he does that. He points it back at himself 3 times over, and he's so hard on himself, and it makes his music so interesting.
I ain't had a drop to drink since the day that you left me.
One of the values that American Aquarium always espouses is the value of hard work. You gotta work hard. You gotta be tough. He sings a lot about tobacco fields in North Carolina, and he's even sung about his desire to move to Oklahoma because it's the land where work conquers all. He really cares about hard work. And on this album, there's a song called The Luckier You Get that's not even about luck.
Down so you never forget, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
You know, on Before the Dogwood Blooms, you're getting a whole story about a trucker that's running drugs in order to pay for his family. On Brightleaf and Burley, he's singing about his family's tobacco farms and how they're basically not money makers anymore. There's no way to make a living doing this. And maybe if I'm reading this song correctly, he's saying that we could be growing weed, but people keep saying it's illegal. And you get a little bit of his resentment toward the government, toward the Bible Belt, toward the South and some of the laws and regulations there. And you get even more frustration towards the South on A Better South, where he talks about people defending monuments of treason, which I would assume mean Confederate statues. And he's frustrated by the place that he's from the place that he loves, but he also dreams of a better South. That's something I think is really important about him. This guy's critical, he really says what he thinks, he's quite outspoken, and yet he's hopeful at the same time. And I think that makes his perspective really important, really interesting, because this album's not called Accusations. This album's called Lamentations. When you lament something, your sadness is rooted in love. And so I think he's looking around at himself, looking around at his family's history, looking around at where he's from, and he's seeing the parts of it that he doesn't like. But he's only bothering to do that because he loves them, because he believes there is a better way, not just for society, but mostly for himself. He is still wrestling with his own demons.
These lamentations are gonna be the death of me.
He says, I stare in the mirror, yelling at a stranger looking back at me, and the ghost of the man I could have been still haunts all my dreams. On another song called How Wicked I Was, he's talking to his wife, and they have a kid together, and he's just saying, like, please don't tell her how wicked I was. Please don't tell her about my past. It's still so alive and with him. Hard work can look different than just driving a truck or putting a hoe in the ground or driving to your 9-to-5 job. Sometimes, and in BJ's case, this is definitely the case, it's about staying committed to the values that you have already committed yourself to. And that might be sobriety, or it might be a faithful, good marriage. He says on this record, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm here until the work's done.
I ain't never been the kind of guy that's gonna cut and run.
Now, I've talked a lot about the lyrics, but the sound of this album is really great too. I think it could use one or two more up-tempo moments. I think The Luckier You Get feels like a breath of fresh air because it's just moving and fun. But this is a serious album. It's a really, really serious album. It's called Lamentations. It's produced by Shooter Jennings. I think they did a great job on it. A lot of these songs have long outros, they let you brood and stew in the emotions. On Me and Mine, Lamentations, the first song on the album, you get this sort of grave and serious, hard-hitting piano, solitary feel, and you're just left to kind of brood. On The Long Haul, you get this gorgeous steel moment at the end of the song that kind of transitions you into a celebration of sorts. This is definitely influenced by rock, that comes through really clearly, but it also means you're getting rock solid drums, percussion, driving guitar. I think the steel in this band is used super effectively. You're not gonna have any fiddle and kind of dance moments, but the way they use steel definitely breaks up the straightforward rock country sound. This album is gorgeous, it's serious, it's heavy, it's such a songwriter's album. Like I said, I wish there were one or two more moments like The Luckier You Get, but on the whole, I freaking love it. One of my favorites of the year, and I didn't do any number scores for any other things in this video, so I won't do it for this, but it's high up there. So that's it for me, guys. Those are just 6 albums, all of which I had pretty positive feelings about. So I hope there's something in this video that you like, and let me know what else I should be listening to. We've got a bunch more videos coming soon. Peace out.